experience or the experience of that the people of a certain vicinity in mind. If the posts, as they are called, the places where provisions for staying the night and other requirements of passengers are made, if they are situated in some area 9 miles apart, the scholars who were discussing that subject would say 9 miles is the distance of journey. If they were 20 miles apart, they would say 20 miles is the distance of journey. According to our observation in India, during the Mughal Empire days, to the best of my knowledge, they were never farther apart than 20 miles. The periods between the two places of rest or watering places, as they are called in English, was generally either 20 miles or less than 20 miles, 17, 16 miles. So the difference is according to the variation of their personal experiences. Now that shows that fundamentally when we interpret the Holy Quran, we must interpret the Holy Quran according to the situations prevailing, not according to the situations which prevailed once in history. We must interpret these verses in view of what situation is prevailing not only in that time generally, but in your place where you are living. So the journey here becomes a very open question now in the modern times. It becomes very difficult to define a journey in view of the fast mode of travel, trains, cars, aeroplanes, and so on and so forth. So how can one define these journeys and how one can solve this issue was made easy for us by the general practice of Hadhrat Mirza Tahir and his caliphs after him, and particularly by the second caliph, Hadhrat Muslim Maud, who, discussing this subject, gave us a general piece of advice. He said, it is difficult for me to measure them in mileage, the journey after which you should consider that you can use the permissions for reduced number of rakats in prayers and so on. But I advise you to judge the matter yourself. When a man is on journey, he knows that he is on journey. And when he is making a short trip and returning, a short pleasure trip and returning after a few hours or during the daytime sometime, he knows that it is just a pleasure trip, it is not a journey. So he gave us this golden line to follow, that if you know that you are on a journey, I am going to Lahore from Rabwa or even to Batala from Qadian and so on, distance is not what is important. What is important is my personal attitude and my mental experience. If I have prepared myself for a journey, then even after I have left the boundaries of my town by a few yards, I am permitted to say the prayers in reduced rakats and skip the fasts because I am on a journey. But if I am on a pleasure trip, and that pleasure trip is up to Islamabad, which is 40 miles from here, it would not be called a journey. And I know that better than anybody else. So, except for this definition and this mode of approach, I don't conceive any other definition or mode of approach which would solve problems rather than create more problems for us. This about the fasting, I'll add further information, further observations. The practice among Ahmadis is this, that because generally the period of stay for a guest is considered to be 3 days, according to Islamic traditions, so for the fasting, this period becomes the guideline for us. if we are staying in some one place more than 3 days, we begin to fast. And we consider the journey part over and the settlement part beginning. If it is a longish period, of course, you are permitted to keep fasts. But if you are visiting a place and mean to stay there for a shorter period than 3 days, then you do not keep fast because you are on a journey. This is not a rule which is binding on you. This is an inference. So it doesn't become binding on anybody. But what does become binding is this, that while you are actually traveling during a journey, then you should not keep fast. So the rest is left to you. What we have observed during Qadian days, because he referred also to Qadian days because in those days, majority of the people living there belonged to the companions of Hadhrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed, who had been taught Islam by Hadhrat Mirza directly, and then later on had the benefit of the company of his earlier generations and companions and caliphs and so on. So those are the times who are like uswa to us for the modern times. So during those times we observed this generally practiced, that if somebody stayed more than 3 days, he would start keeping fast and he would not consider himself on a journey. But as far as the prayer timing is concerned, this is established according to the old jurisprudence school, based on many traditions, that 3 days are not the period to determine your journey. They are either 15 days or in some cases even more than 15 days. If you are staying in one place during your journey, you are making your journey and stay there for 14 days for instance, you will say your prayers according to the reduced number of rakat permissible to you. And all that period of 14 days would be considered a part of the journey. If you extend that period of stay, after say 13 days, suddenly you decide to stay there, when it is not a plan of the previous part of the previous plan, you decide suddenly that all right, I extend my journey to 10 more days. Still you would be on journey. And the same rules of journey prayers would apply to your prayers. If you, before the end of 10 days, for instance, you decide to extend it further to 13 days more, still you would be on journey. The uncertainty part here is the integral part of a journey's atmosphere. So as long as you are not certain, that is to say in your plans, in your attitude, to stay in one place for more than 14 days, you continue to remain unsettled in mind, and that uncertainty of approach or situation would permit you to say your prayers as if you are on a journey. It is known that Hadhrat Mirza Tahir, while appearing in Gurdaspur, stayed there for many months continuously, not knowing when that period of journey would end. Continued to apply the rules of journey prayers to his prayers. Now when he did it, you must bear in mind that he was not one of those who would avoid prayers, who would seek excuses to shorten the prayer. He was one who would spend most of his time while on journey still in prayers. Still, this was his attitude of deep respect to Allah and His Prophet, that if they permitted you, you must be respectful of that permission and use it with gratitude, not pose as if you can do better and so you don't regard these permissions, you don't need these permissions. So this is all that I had to say to you regarding this issue. If any part of your query is left untouched, you better come and now is it